The Iowa caucuses are 2 weeks away, and now we're seeing the rise of Ron Paul. The GOP presidential hopeful is surging in the latest polls. This as the frontrunner, Newt Gingrich, is losing his lead. We're joined now by Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul. He's live in Manchester, New Hampshire. Congressman Paul, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, Nate Silver at the New York Times ran the poll numbers through a formula that he used and designed to predict a winner in Iowa. And according to his numbers, you're looking pretty good. Take a look at this. It's these 538, what they're called 538 Iowa projections, show you at 52% chance of winning, Mitt Romney at 28%, Rick Perry at 7%. You think you got a chance of winning in Iowa?
Those odds sound pretty good, so I guess we certainly do have a chance, but I think we have a little bit of work to do. We still have a couple weeks, and so I think we're in a good position, and I'm really enjoying it because I think the American people have come around to believing that government's not our answer, and my offer of the freedom philosophy is something that is very attractive.
All right, you actually want to close a lot of federal agencies, and there was an interesting poll in the Des Moines Register that I want to show our viewers. About the number of people who agree with you. 60% of respondents agree with closing the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 57% with the Environmental Protection Agency, 54% with the Department of Education, 45% with the Department of Energy, 42% with the TSA. Well, we can discuss what you do with that if you get rid of the TSA. 36% with the Federal Reserve. Here's the issue. Places like the EPA have 17,000 employees. HUD says that they've got 8,900 employees. What do you do in a tough economy like this with the unemployment rate where it is, job creation not where it is, and you're advocating a whole lot of people losing their jobs?
Well, you go through attrition and you let them go and you reduce the number of people who are working for the government, because many of us who see government as the problem as people working for the government as being non-productive. It takes money out of the private economy, puts it in the government, and then the bureaucrats, they do damage to the economy, so you lose twice. But it's not like putting them on the street the first day, but there is an attrition and they go back into the workforce. But we've gone through periods like this, and the example I've used frequently is after World War II. 10 million people came home, and we didn't have any work program, and all of a sudden they had jobs again because the government got out of the way.
Where do you think those jobs would come from? If the government got out of the way in the way you discuss, because I think that's the answer we're all looking for, where would jobs come from?
Well, you can't predict because the market makes these decisions. If you get out of the way and invite capital back and you restore sound money, I mean, all kinds of places. Maybe we would get our industrial base back again. But you can't tell. And if you're an economic planner and think that you know, and you want to stimulate things and you pump money into Solyndra and do these different things, that's a negative. You have to allow the market to make the decision. But you have to get the tax code change, the regulatory change, the monetary change. You have to reduce the deficits, and then the environment is different. Then the people make the choices. It's sort of like saying, how should the people spend their money if they're working? Well, they decide how to spend their money. Businessmen have to make those decisions as well.
Well, let me ask you this. You have long not liked a lot of what the Federal Reserve does, but you've been swimming upstream, not just here in the United States, but around the world. I mean, every country has gone to a central banking system. They're a little bit different in different places. Do you really believe that the Federal Reserve is one of the major problems that we've got in our economy?
Oh, absolutely. Central banking. I mean, how can you deny it when you look at the world crisis? I mean, we're in the worst financial crisis in all of history. And we think right now our government is on the verge. They plan to bail out Europe with more dollars, and the dollar's already been downgraded once. It's getting ready to be downgraded. To defend central banking and not ignore the fact that central banking has brought us to this crisis, I think people are living with blindfolders on, and this doesn't mean that there's chaos. There's just...
Let me ask you this. What would happen if you didn't have the central banks putting money into the system, which has the effect of keeping interest rates low, which are supposed to be stimulative to the economy? And I know I hear from a lot of people who say, I didn't do anything wrong. I can't get any money on my savings.
Right.
There's no interest rate. What would be the outcome of letting interest rates do what they do, not having the central bank keep interest rates low to stimulate the economy, or to try to?
Well, we'd get rid of price fixing, and that's what the Fed does. They price fix interest rates, and that's why the economy gets distorted. You'd restore the economy, but you would get the correction. When the government, when the Federal Reserve and Congress distorts the economy and they get overbuilding like they did in the housing bubble, right, you would correct that. But what did they do with the housing bubble? They propped it up and all the bad debt. The taxpayers ended up with it. So what you do is you want the correction to occur. You want to eliminate the debt and the malinvestment so we can get growth again. So everything we've done so far has been exactly opposite. But why should we believe in socialism for money and price fixing? Nobody wants wage and price controls.
Correcting prices in this case would mean housing prices going down further, right?
Sure. Well, who knows? They may be at bottom finally by now, but yes, you'd get to the point where if we had done this 4 years ago, the prices would have gone maybe sharper and maybe more quickly, but then the investors and people who did save money, maybe people would have saved money if they could have earned 6% on the CDs. Yeah. But no, the government does it on purpose. They take it down and they give the money to the banks for free, and they take the interest rates from the savers. So we encourage this idea of spending money rather than saving money so you can buy when the prices go down.
Congressman, as you are sort of breaking through some barriers in the polls, some other things are happening. There's been some talk, again, resurfaced talk, about some things that that were written in a newsletter under your name. I know you've started to address this, but in 2008, the New Republic, James Kirchick attributed some comments to you in newsletters where you referred to disturbances in Washington's Adams Morgan as animals taking over the D.C. Zoo, referring to African Americans. You said that Martin Luther King seduced underage girls and boys. You talked about Ronald Reagan proclaiming annual Hate Whitey Day with Martin Luther King Day, and you advocated prohibiting AIDS patients from eating in restaurants. These things were published under your name.
Yeah, but I didn't write them, and I disavowed them.
Right, but you're a presidential candidate. That's tough, right? I mean, it kind of comes back to bite you that you made money off of things that were published under your name that were hateful and racist.
Yeah, but this has been addressed for 20 years, and nobody accuses me of that type of beliefs or language. I'm a true civil libertarian, and I think people dig these up when people think that, oh, his economic policies are winning, his foreign policies are winning, his monetary policies are winning. So they have to dig these things up, which they really can't pin on me because they've been disavowed, and they are old, they've been rehashed. Just go back and read all the articles, and there's all the explanations. So yes, it wasn't good, but I didn't write them, and those aren't my beliefs, so I sleep well.
Are you comfortable in telling us who did write them? You haven't been able to sort of tell us specifically who wrote them.
I really don't know. 20 years ago, I had 6 or 8 people helping me with the letter, and I was practicing medicine, to tell you the truth. Right. And so I do not know.
But we could find out because you had 6 or 8 people. Like it's one of those 6 or 8 people.
Well, possibly I could, but
I guess as you get closer to being president of the United States, folks will want to know that you don't really dislike black people and people with AIDS and things like that. And I get what you're saying, that you're going up in the polls and people are concentrating.
Excuse me. Why don't they concentrate on every word I've ever said, every speech I've ever given, every conference I've ever gone to, right? And maybe that's where maybe my beliefs are more important than stirring this up. So my beliefs, actually, a true civil libertarian is a strong defense of individual liberties, and nobody's accused me of lacking a libertarian spirit of defending individuals. So these charges are a total contradiction to everything I've said and everything I believe.
Do you think the media establishment's been fair to you or unfair?
Oh, you mean, well, they're so biased. I don't know whether you use fair or unfair.
Okay, you think they're biased against you?
Well, I mean, why don't you go look at Jon Stewart's reports when he defends me on the biasness of the media. I mean, he mocked the media for the way they've treated me during the campaign and reported. But I don't get upset about that, and that's just the way you guys work, so it's no big deal to me. That's just the way. And the more progress I make in challenging the status quo, challenge the bankers and challenging the bank bailouts, challenging this wicked foreign policy of war forever and the military-industrial complex, the stronger they will emphasize picking this and ignoring the important issues of what freedom is all about and what civil liberty is all about. And why don't you go look at why I make a lot of comments about the war on drugs and how racist the enforcement of drug laws are. I mean, who else defends
I know you do.
the racism in drug laws? Yeah, you don't. You're concentrating on something else. So somebody someday ought to look at the whole picture rather than picking out something I didn't write and I have disavowed. So and that's been done many times. So go back and read the record.
It's the cost of surging in the polls.